Hi and welcome back to the channel. If it's your first time here, my name's Lee. Okay, so today I want to talk about the rubles for gas and also how this will affect Europe, in particularly Germany. And first of all, I'm going to clarify how this rubles for gas is going to work, because we've had some more clarification on this since my last video. So what will happen is that the companies in the various European countries, Germany, Italy, France, Spain, all those, will be required to open a ruble account at a Russian bank. And as many of the Russian banks are sanctioned, that bank will be Gazprom Bank. What will then happen is those companies will deposit their euros or dollars, but more likely from Europe it will be euros, into Gazprom Bank. Gazprom Bank will then convert those euros to rubles and deposit those rubles in the accounts that those companies have opened, those ruble accounts. What will then happen is those rubles will then be transferred to Gazprom in Russia to pay for the gas. Now, you've had the leaders of some European countries saying they're not actually going to do that. They feel it's blackmail or breach of contract. I personally think the breach of contract or the blackmail is a bit of an over-the-top description, especially in light of the sanctions, the illegal sanctions that have been applied to Russia by those same EU countries. But it's unclear why Europe are in such a panic about this, because it's not really that much different to how you would conduct an international transfer of money anyway. Now, my thought is that possibly they're concerned about it because it will be the start of bigger things to come from Russia. Obviously, euros and dollars are not that much use to Russia. Ruble is its national currency, and we've also seen that Russia have somewhat tied the ruble to gold. And I think these European countries are getting concerned that this will be the start of a bigger move towards having to pay for more things in rubles, which I'm sure will happen. We already have the grain federation in Russia talking about this, but it could be, pretty much all commodities from Russia, and that would actually make Europe, by buying these commodities from Russia, which it absolutely needs, it would actually cause Europe to strengthen the ruble, and that's what they don't want to happen. When these sanctions were first applied to Russia, it was thought by the Europeans and the Americans that it would collapse Russia's economy, the ruble would collapse, inflation would be sky high. Now, although inflation has rose significantly, Russia has said that they will bring that under control and it will start to fall over the next year or two. And also we've seen the ruble versus the dollar get back to almost pre-invasion exchange levels. So it's absolutely clear that the sanctions that they thought, or the job they thought they were going to do, has actually failed. The thinking was that it was going to, put pressure on Putin from the people, and that the people may overthrow Putin's government. But that has actually had the opposite effect. In fact, a recent survey shows that actually Putin's support within Russia has strengthened. And I want to go on to an article which I've read in the Financial Times. I will link to that article in the description. But it talks about how Russian large industry is sounding the alarm over Germany's energy policy and the talk of rationing gas. The chief executive of Heinz Glass, which is a huge glass maker in Germany, makes glass for a number of large brands within the market, has said in the event of prolonged gas shortages, shortages if Moscow decides to cut supplies to European countries that have imposed sanctions on Russia over the war. We won't be able to survive as a company, she said. We'd have to shut down the glass melting furnaces completely. We'd lose the workforce and it would be very hard to just restart production after a year or two. It's not only this company that's raising the alarm. More than half the natural gas consumed in the country each year comes from Russia, the highest share for any major EU economy. And gas-reliant industries are warning that by winter their operations could be at the mercy of Moscow. Obviously, towards the winter, the demand in Europe for gas increases significantly because generally a lot of Europe has a cold winter, and Germany especially, a lot of homes are heated by gas. The article then goes on to say their fears when the German government worried Russia would cut off gas supplies after EU states rebuffed Moscow's demand to be paid in rubles, activated the first of 3 warning stages in its emergency supply plan. And basically industry says such a step would cost Europe's largest economy tens of billions of euro, estimates suggest, and could plunge Germany into recession. Union leaders have warned hundreds of thousands of jobs would be at risk. And then you have the BASF, which is the world's largest integrated chemical manufacturer, and they use almost 4% of the whole of Germany's gas supply. And they told the FT if gas deliveries drop below 50% of their normal level, the supply would be endangered for substances used for medical, hygiene and food products. And Henrik Follmann, head of Follmann Chemie, said gas supplies were crucial to making naphtha. We need this feedstock, he says. If we don't get it, the refineries are going to stop, then the chemical industry will stop, and the whole German industry will stop. So as you can see, German industry is very, very concerned about the supply of energy that it continues from Russia. So I would imagine there are many other European countries in the same predicament, and I suspect that most of the companies that are supplying gas to these large industries also have contractual obligations to supply the gas. So I suspect that they will end up following what Russia wants them to do with regards payment for that gas. And as I said earlier, I suspect that we will see that payments in rubles apply to other commodities as time goes on. I mean, so far, if we look at the situation, the EU, US and a couple of other countries have slapped a huge amount of sanctions onto Russia. And I think the EU says they're pretty much at sanctions max now. I mean, we see them announcing more sanctions, but they're just sort of minor things onto sort of certain people, or they're seizing a yacht here or a mansion there. They're not sanctions that are going to make a big difference to the Russian economy. It's also noteworthy that Russia have really not retaliated to any extent yet with sanctions. I'm sure they have some planned, and I think they are biding the time, or they are working those sanctions out. Unlike the EU and the US, which rushed, they couldn't apply sanctions fast enough. I think Russia will be more strategic with the sanctions they apply, and I think they will be designed to hurt what they deem as unfriendly countries. Anyway, so that's an update today. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. But as always, for now, take care.